My daughter got her first job walking dogs in the neighborhood. She was so proud, until our neighbor accused her of trespassing with a weapon. The weapon was a roll of dog poop bags. The police showed up at our door. She was terrified. The next day, my daughter's backpack was slashed open on our porch, her tips gone, and a note inside that read, "Little thieves grow into big ones." I checked the footage. It was our neighbor's husband. When we confronted them, she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Maybe she needs to learn early what it means to be watched." My daughter Ellie got her first real job last summer. She was 15, a little shy, but trying to come out of her shell. She started walking dogs for neighbors around our quiet street in Hendersonville, North Carolina. Nothing fancy, just a few families who didn't have time during the day, or older folks who couldn't manage big dogs anymore. She was so proud of it. She carried her little purple backpack every day, filled with water bottles, dog treats, a notebook to keep track of each dog's schedule, and a poop bag dispenser clipped to the zipper. One of those black plastic ones that look like a mini flashlight, but it just unscrewed to refill with bags. It might not sound like much, but after everything we've been through, it meant a lot. Her dad left 2 years ago. Moved to Tennessee. Started a new family. We struggled for a while. Ellie changed after he left. Got quieter. Sadder. So when she started waking up early, excited to take care of people's dogs, it felt like we'd turned a corner. That feeling lasted about 2 weeks. One afternoon she came home shaking. I was in the kitchen making dinner when the front door slammed. She stood there, frozen. Her face was red, and she looked like she'd just run 5 miles. "There were cops," she said. "At the corner house. They stopped me." My heart dropped. I thought maybe something had happened to one of the dogs. "They said someone called them. They thought I had a weapon." "A weapon?" I repeated. "What do you mean?" She held up the black plastic poop bag dispenser. "This. They thought it was a weapon." I stared at her. I didn't even know what to say. "They asked what I was doing in the yard." She went on, tears starting to build. "I was returning Skippy, Mrs. Wexley's neighbor's dog. She's out of town. I walk him every day." I took her backpack and tried to calm her down, but she was clearly rattled. We sat on the couch. She kept apologizing like she'd done something wrong. I told her over and over that she didn't. Later that day, we got a knock on the door. 2 police officers. Calm, polite, but definitely following up. "Just a routine check," one said. A neighbor reported a young girl walking through yards, possibly carrying something that looked like a pipe or cylinder. "Turns out, it's just this." He held up the poop bag holder. He actually looked kind of embarrassed. "Someone really thought that was a weapon?" I asked. "People get nervous these days," he said. I didn't need to ask who had called it in. I already knew. Sandra Wexley lived 3 doors down. Retired, mid-60s, wore a visor every day and policed the entire street from her porch. I'd caught her glaring at Ellie more than once while she walked dogs. I never thought much of it, figured she just hated kids. But now it felt different. I told Ellie not to let it get to her. I said Sandra was probably just bored and bitter. But my daughter didn't want to go out the next morning. She stayed in her room for most of the day. I thought maybe she needed time. Then the next morning came, and things got worse. I opened the front door and saw her backpack sitting on the porch. I thought maybe she'd left it out by mistake. But when I picked it up, something felt off. It was light. I looked inside and my stomach dropped. The whole bottom had been slashed open. The pocket where she kept her tip money was empty. Her dog notebook was torn. And in the main compartment was a crumpled note written in black marker. "Little thieves grow into big ones." I ran straight to our Ring camera footage. I pulled up the app, heart racing. There it was, at 5:18 a.m., before sunrise. Someone walked up to our porch. Hoodie, baseball cap, head down. But I recognized the walk. Limp on the left side. Right hand on the railing. Greg Wexley. Sandra's husband. I stared at it in disbelief. Then I got angry. I showed Ellie. She looked at it, then looked away. She didn't cry this time. She just got quiet. That hurt even more. I called the police. Filed a report. Showed them the footage. The officer who took it seemed uninterested. He wrote things down, but kept using phrases like, "Might be hard to prove," and "Not sure what the DA will want to do with this." I asked if they were going to bring him in. They said they'd follow up. I knew that meant nothing. So I decided to handle it myself. That evening, I walked straight to the Wexley's door. Ellie stayed inside. I didn't knock hard, didn't yell. I wanted to look her in the eyes. Sandra opened the door. She didn't look surprised. You and I both know what your husband did, I said. She raised her eyebrows. Excuse me? He stole from a child. He slashed her backpack and left a threat. I have it all on video. And I gave it to the cops. She crossed her arms. Sounds like you've got it all figured out. You think it's okay to scare a 15-year-old? To accuse her of theft, call the cops on her, and then rob her? Sandra smiled. Not warm. Not fake. Cold. Maybe she needs to learn early what it means to be watched, she said. That line burned into my brain. I didn't say another word. I just walked away. But I wasn't done. Not even close. After Sandra said those words to me. Maybe she needs to learn early what it means to be watched. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how scared Ellie had been. How proud she'd been of her first job. And how these two miserable people had taken that from her, and felt smug about it. I wasn't going to scream or get arrested over this. But I was going to make sure they regretted ever messing with my kid. The next day, I started small. I printed screenshots from the ring footage. A clear still frame of Greg Wexley on our porch, time-stamped, his hand reaching for Ellie's bag. Then I wrote a short letter and slipped it in an envelope. This man trespassed, stole from a minor, and left a threatening note on our property. Video proof has been turned over to the police. The law may be slow, but the truth is fast. Keep your children and pets safe. I didn't sign it. I just printed 10 copies and walked the neighborhood with Ellie's old backpack slung over my shoulder. I dropped the envelopes on porches, slid them into mailboxes, and posted one on the bulletin board at the nearby dog park where Ellie used to take her clients' dogs. I knew people would talk. And I knew exactly how fast word would spread in a place like ours. Within 2 days, Greg Wexley's handyman truck was sitting untouched in his driveway. Normally, he picked up small repair jobs from neighbors all week long. But now people were looking at him differently. Crossing the street when he came out to check the mail. Staring a little too long. One of Ellie's former dog-walking clients, a sweet older man named Mr. Bradshaw, came by our house that Friday. He handed Ellie a new backpack. Figured you might need one, he said. You're still the best dog walker I've had. I'd like you to start again if you're up for it. She teared up, nodded, and took the bag. That weekend I went further. I made a simple website. Free hosting, basic layout. It had 1 page, 1 video, the ring footage, looped and zoomed in, and the message from the letter. I didn't post it on Facebook. That would be too obvious. But I shared the link with a few neighbors through burner accounts. A few friends in town. A few dog walking forums. By Monday, someone had printed it out and taped it to the Wexley's fence. Sandra stormed out while I was weeding my front yard. I hope you're proud of yourself, she hissed. You're harassing us. I stood up. You harassed a child. I'm just returning the favor. She turned red. Greg is a veteran. He has health issues. He didn't mean anything by it. He meant enough to steal from a teenage girl and call her a thief, I said. So now everyone knows who he is. She stormed back inside. That night, someone egged the Wexley's front door. Wasn't me. I wouldn't do that. But I wasn't crying over it either. Things were quiet for a few days after that. Greg stopped coming out at all. Sandra only left in the early morning. They started keeping their porch light off at night. I thought maybe that was the end of it. Then Ellie found another note. This one wasn't on the porch. It was in her new backpack. She'd left it on the front step while she went to grab a water bottle inside. Less than 5 minutes. But that was all it took. This time, the note said, "Keep it up, and something worse than your bag gets cut open." That second note pushed me past any idea of playing fair. It was short. Sloppy handwriting, like the last one. Same marker. Same smug tone. Keep it up, and something worse than your bag gets cut open. I checked the cameras. Again. At 3:47 p.m., the footage showed Sandra herself walking past our front porch, pausing at the steps, then disappearing from the camera's view for exactly 8 seconds. That was enough time to drop the note inside the backpack. Then she casually strolled off like she'd just been out for a walk. I saved the clip. 3 different angles. I backed them up. Sent them to my brother in Raleigh, who worked in IT. He enhanced the timestamp and adjusted the clarity. By the next day, I had high-res still showing Sandra Wexley near our porch with the time and date printed clean across the bottom. I called the police. Again. Officer Martinez came this time, young, polite, clearly uncomfortable. He looked at the footage and said, "Ma'am, I believe you. But unless there's a witness or she's caught in the act putting the note in the bag, we can't do much. It's circumstantial. I didn't bother getting mad. I already knew the system wouldn't help us. So I found a different way. I made a flyer. Just like before. But this one had both stills, Greg stealing the backpack, and Sandra standing at the porch the day the new threat was dropped. Below the images I wrote, Greg Wexley, caught on video robbing a minor. Sandra Wexley, caught making threats. These people are not just cruel, they are dangerous. Protect your kids. Keep your pets close. Don't let them near your home. Then I printed 50 copies. I hit every telephone pole within 6 blocks. Grocery store bulletin boards. Gas stations. The local library. I taped one to the community mailbox station by the high school. By sunset, the neighborhood group chat, one I had been quietly removed from months ago, was on fire. A friend texted me screenshots. People were pissed. Some believed it right away. Others weren't sure, but the footage spoke for itself. Is this real? Why aren't the cops doing something? I always knew that old couple was shady. It spread fast. A local mom blog picked it up. One of the dog walking forums I'd posted and flagged it as a safety alert, and pushed it to subscribers in our county. Within 48 hours, someone had created an anonymous Twitter account called Wexley Watch. They posted memes, side-by-side comparisons of poop bag holders and weapons, and stills of Greg sneaking onto our porch. The account gained over 1,000 followers in 2 days. Then the real fallout started. Greg lost a long-standing repair job contract with the local community center. I heard it through a friend who worked the front desk. Too many complaints from parents, she said. Someone filed an HOA complaint against the Wexleys. Then 2 more. Lawn violation, noise complaint. Suspicious behavior. They weren't just disliked now. They were being watched from every window. And Ellie? She started smiling again. She picked up new clients, people who had heard what happened and wanted to support her. A retired woman down the block gave her $100. Just because. A vet tech offered to write her a letter of recommendation for when she applied for college. I thought maybe, just maybe, this chapter was over. Until Ellie came home early one day, white as a sheet. They followed me, she said. What? Who? Greg and Sandra. In their car. I saw them twice. Once near the park. Then they turned up again on Whitmore Street. I cut through the church parking lot just to get away. I grabbed my keys and told her to get in the car. We circled for 30 minutes, but they were gone. No proof. No footage. But I knew what was happening. They were angry. Humiliated. And trying to scare her into silence. They weren't going to stop. So I changed my plan. It was time to dig into their lives. Deep. After the second time they followed Ellie, I knew I had to shift gears. Public shame wasn't enough. They were too proud, too spiteful. It didn't bother them that people hated them. They were used to that. What they couldn't handle was exposure. Real exposure. So I started digging. Greg Wexley wasn't hard to trace. He had a small LLC registered under his name for home repairs, Wexley Property Solutions. I looked up the filings, sloppy, barely maintained. He'd missed a few renewals and only recently got it reinstated. That raised a red flag. Then I pulled court records. Greg had a sealed misdemeanor from 2009. Couldn't see details, but I flagged the case number anyway. I kept going, checking public contractor review sites, looking for anyone who might have had issues with him. Then I found a blog post. It was old, 2016. A woman named Valerie in Boone, North Carolina, wrote about a handyman who promised work, took a deposit, and vanished. She didn't list his name, but she described the man, late 50s, limp on the left leg, drove an old green pickup with a rusted tailgate. I messaged her. It took a couple of days, but she replied. She sent me an old receipt. The name on it? Gregory Wexley. I asked if she ever got her money back. She said no. Tried to file a report, but without a contract, it went nowhere. Now I had a pattern. Enough to start connecting dots. I messaged 5 more people who'd left low-rated reviews on a local handyman forum. One woman said he'd done shoddy electrical work that later failed inspection. Another said he pressured her to pay in cash, so it wouldn't get lost in paperwork. I kept notes on everything. Then I started with Sandra. Her maiden name wasn't Wexley. It was Sandra Mullins. Born in Alabama. She married Greg in 1992 in Shelby County. I found a digital archive of a local newspaper from 1998. There was a short article about a dispute between neighbors, involving Sandra and a family with small kids. No charges filed, but the article quoted a line she allegedly screamed. "You people need to teach your brats to stay off my property, or I'll teach them myself." The quote stayed with me. I printed every piece of info. Put it in a manila folder. Copied everything to a thumb drive. Then I drove out to the Henderson County Community Legal Office. I didn't need them to take the case. I just needed someone official to hear the full story. The receptionist took one look at my folder and called in a junior attorney. I explained everything: Ellie's job, the police calls, the vandalism, the threats, the video footage, the harassment. I laid out Greg's shady work history. Sandra's history of threats. Everything. She was quiet for a long time. Finally she said, "This may not be criminal, but it's close to civil harassment. You could try for a restraining order." She paused. "Also, you might want to talk to the local news. This is the kind of thing they'd run with." I hadn't thought about that. But it clicked fast. I emailed the tip line for a small local station, WLOS. I didn't use my name. Just gave them the basics, said there was video evidence of an elderly couple harassing a teenage girl, even making threats. I uploaded the ring footage and the public documents to a Dropbox link and hit send. It only took 4 days before they picked it up. I didn't know until a neighbor texted me. "Turn on channel 13. You're not gonna believe it." There it was. Footage of Greg creeping up our porch. Voiceover. Caught on camera, local handyman accused of threatening a teenage dog walker. They didn't show Ellie's face. Just clips. Narration. My words were quoted but I wasn't named. The news anchor said police were re-reviewing the case. That night someone spray-painted Thieves across the Wexley's garage door. Again, wasn't me. But they were finally getting back what they gave out. The next morning, Sandra came to our house. No smug smile. No sharp comments. Just stood there, eyes wide, like she wanted to say something but couldn't. I didn't open the door. She left without knocking. Later that week, we got a letter from their lawyer. Threatening defamation action. I forwarded it to the community legal office. They replied 2 days later with a short note. "We reviewed your materials. You're within your rights. No grounds for defamation. Let us know if they continue contact." It was quiet for a few weeks after that. Too quiet. I knew they weren't finished. And I was right. One night in early September, my car tires were slashed. Ellie found a pile of shredded dog toys scattered across the porch. There were no cameras this time. But they made a mistake. Because someone else caught it. The night my tires were slashed, I stood in the driveway staring at the rubber ribbons curled off the rim like black petals. I didn't even feel shocked anymore. Just tired. Furious. But tired. Then Ellie came outside, holding the pile of shredded dog toys someone had dumped on our porch. Her face said everything: fear, shame, helplessness. "They want me to quit," she whispered. "They want me to be scared." I didn't say anything. I just pulled her into a hug. But inside, I was done being scared. And I wasn't going to let them win. I went back through the neighborhood chat forums and the local next-door group. I posted calmly, asking if anyone had cameras that might have caught someone near our driveway between 1 o'clock and 3 a.m. that night. Just a soft feeler. I didn't expect much. But around noon the next day, I got a private message. From a woman named Carla, who lived on the cross street behind the Wexleys. Her message read, "Hi. I think I have something. My cameras face the alley behind our houses. Around 2:10 a.m., I saw an older man with a limp walking past with a bag. He turned up the side path toward your street. Do you want the footage?" I drove over immediately. She pulled it up on her phone. There he was. Greg Wexley. Clearer than ever before. Same gait. Same frame. Holding a plastic grocery bag in one hand and a long object, looked like a tire iron or screwdriver, in the other. Timestamp: 2:10 a.m. directly before the time my car was vandalized. I thanked Carla 100 times. She emailed me the file. I backed it up 6 ways from Sunday. Then I did something I hadn't done before. I posted it. Not anonymously. On my real Facebook page. Caption: "This man harassed my daughter. He slashed her bag. Stole from her. Left threats. And now he's slashing my tires. This is Greg Wexley. We've reported him to the police. They've done nothing. But maybe it's time everyone else saw the kind of man he really is." It exploded. Over 100 shares in less than 24 hours. Former clients of his started commenting. One woman said he'd done shady work at her house last year. Another said she paid him for a shed repair that he never finished. Someone dropped the local Better Business Bureau link. Then someone else shared it to Reddit. It hit a local subreddit called r/NCJustice. Within 2 days, it was the top post. People started digging. They found Greg's LLC license status, currently suspended. Someone else tracked Sandra's online review history. Found a Yelp review she left under her real name 6 months ago calling a barista a smug little brat who should be fired. People started linking that to Ellie's story. Then came the best part. A woman messaged me. Said she used to be a private client of Greg's. She wanted to remain anonymous but had something important. She said Greg once bragged to her that kids today are soft. And sometimes you gotta scare 'em straight. This was after she told him her niece had been followed home by someone creepy. She had no proof of him saying it, but she gave me permission to share it anonymously. I added it to the public post as an update. It got picked up by a national Twitter account focused on exposing predatory behavior. Then a parenting blog. Then, somehow, a mid-tier true crime podcast that ran a segment on neighborhood vigilante bullies. Greg Wexley became a meme. Someone edited a photo of him from our Ring camera and added the text. Imagine threatening a 15-year-old over dog poop bags. Sandra's gardening club kicked her out. Their house got egged 3 more times in 1 week. Their mailbox got filled with glitter and dog poop. But still, no police action. So I went back to the community legal office. I handed them everything: Carla's footage, the Facebook screenshots, the messages from other clients. They called the county prosecutor directly. By the end of the week, Greg Wexley was arrested for vandalism and trespassing. It made the news again. This time with the headline: Local handyman arrested after targeting teen in harassment campaign. I wish I could say that made everything better. But Ellie still gets nervous. She still checks over her shoulder sometimes when she walks down the street. But you know what? She didn't quit her job. She still walks dogs. Her new backpack has a built-in camera. One of her clients gifted it to her. And Sandra? She walks with her head down now. Every time I see her in her yard, I wave. She doesn't wave back. Greg Wexley was released on bond 2 days after his arrest. But things had already changed. He wasn't just that grumpy old handyman anymore. He was the man who slashed a teenager's backpack, stalked her, vandalized her family's car, and left threats. He was the one who got caught, not once, but 3 times, on camera. He lost every client he had left. His truck? Keyed on both sides. His business website? Taken down after people flooded it with 1-star reviews and links to the footage. Sandra tried to keep up appearances. She watered her lawn like nothing had happened. Walked her little yappy dog around the block like usual. But no one spoke to her. No one waved. She was a ghost in her own neighborhood. And the best part? They brought it all on themselves. But here's where I admit something I hadn't told anyone, not even Ellie. When I first made that public post with Greg's picture and story, I tagged the wrong Greg Wexley. The one I posted had the same name, same town, similar build, but wasn't our neighbor. It was a guy who lived 2 blocks over. He called me that same night. He was kind. Said he figured it out quickly, and didn't want to make it worse. But he asked me, gently, to correct it. Said his wife had already gotten a nasty message. I felt sick. I apologized. Took the post down immediately. Put up a correction. Thankfully, it hadn't gone viral yet when I made the mistake. The real footage was already online elsewhere, so people figured it out quickly. But it stuck with me. I was so blinded by rage that I nearly ruined the wrong person's life. That's what this war with the Wexleys had turned me into. Someone who was willing to go scorched earth without stopping to double-check. I fixed the mistake. Made it right. But I kept thinking about it. About how Greg and Sandra did something cruel, and how I responded with something that could have been just as damaging if I hadn't caught it in time. And I think that's when I realized the revenge was over. It didn't need more. Greg was facing charges. Sandra had been humiliated. Their world had turned upside down. Ellie didn't need more fire. She needed peace. So we took a break. Just a weekend away, nothing big. Drove to Asheville, stayed in a cheap cabin, walked trails, ate greasy diner food. And I told her everything. The mistake I made. The things I did to fight back. She listened. Then she said, "You did it for me. But I think we're done now, Mom." And she was right. We came home to a quiet street. A quiet house. A quiet porch. Greg eventually took a plea deal. Misdemeanor vandalism. Community service. A fine. He was told to stay away from Ellie and from our house. Sandra stopped walking her dog. Word was they were thinking of moving. I didn't celebrate. Not out loud. But I slept better. Because in the end, they didn't just lose a petty battle over dog poop bags. They lost the only thing that mattered to them: their reputation, their comfort, their power. And my daughter? She kept her head up. She learned what it meant to stand tall, even when someone tried to crush her. They tried to make her feel small. And all they did was show the world how small they really were.